Okay, good evening. Thank you all for winter quarterly meeting, update meeting for the Northern Bus Garage Reconstruction Project. Uh, both in, we'll go through a few etiquette things to, so we can have the meeting run smoothly. If you are in person, after each section, there is a Q&A portion. We simply ask you to raise your hand and we will bring the mic to you to be able to ask. If you would like to write your question out instead, there'll be 3x5 cards in the back. Restrooms are out the hall to your left. Anyone would like them in the back, as well as face mask and hand sanitizer should you need it. Next slide. For those who are online, you may ask your questions at any by either typing them in the chat or during the Q&A section. You can raise your hand online. Will be that you want to ask a question, and that question will be piped into the room. So either someone in the read your question if you put it in the chat, or we will allow you to ask it directly. Next slide. Of course, the raise your hand feature is at the bottom in the reactions, bottom center right. I'm used to seeing it on the computer, and you can raise your hand there. Next slide. So to go through today's agenda, we will do introductions by the new project lead, Maya Nino. We'll talk about the Metro Zero Emissions Bus Update, give overviews, project overview and construction update, talk about the environmental management, and what to expect in early 2023. The art director for the project is unable to attend, but we will take any questions and ensure that you all get answers. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Maya to introduce the team. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Maya Nino, as Denzel said. I am with office at WMATA. This is my first time here, so thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to working with you, coordinating with you, and build on the success the team has been doing. So for introduction, Mr. Jim have the project manager, Amy Mazur. So for the next presentation, we'll turn it over to Amy for the Metro Zero Emission Bus Update.
Great, thanks so much, Maya. So hi, nice to see everyone today. My name is Amy Mazrubian. I'm the Director of Zero Emission Vehicles for Metro. I'm really happy to be here today. So for those of you who weren't able to attend the groundbreaking event yesterday, I wanted to make sure you all heard the announcement that we are fully committed to opening Northern Bus Garage as a 100% zero emission bus facility. We've been hearing strong community feedback throughout this process on the desire to not bring diesel buses back to the garage, and we heard you. So this garage will be set up to support a fleet of electric buses. So thank you to everyone for your continued engagement on this topic, and I'm happy that we're now able to meet the community. I know there's also some interest in Metro's broader efforts to transform the fleet to zero emission technology. So Northern will be one of our first zero emission bus divisions, and we're currently developing our transition plan to think about how we will plan out the transition of all of our other bus divisions as well, and transition our fleet and our internal workforce so we can support that 100% zero emission commitment that we have. So as more information comes available on some of our other efforts, I'll make sure to share them with the community. So
I apologize to hold the mic still without, you all can hear. So, question here, and then we'll come across.
Hi, my name is Steve Banashek. I live in Alexandria, which is currently running 14 electric buses right now. Been running them for a couple of years. So regarding Northern, when you say all electric, are they all the buses there going to be battery electric?
yes, yes.
There'll be no hydrogen fuel cell buses there.
No, that's not the plan for Northern.
Not the plan, or no, there won't.
We're designing Northern for a battery electric bus.
Okay, and then regarding the bus procurement schedule, 12 buses for the pilot, 2 this year, 10 next year. The capital plan also says purchase 25 battery electric buses next year. Well, it says zero emission. We want them to be battery electric in FY 2024. Is that the current plan, to stick with that in addition to the 10 from the pilot?
To stick with battery electric, is that what you're asking?
Well, to do the 25 and then, yes, battery, the schedule.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So in terms of bus procurement, we'll be issuing an RFP for our next 5-year bus procurement soon. So that will have all of the details of the plans for the procurement cycle. So I think once that's made publicly available, we can provide a little bit more detail on the technology mix for the next 5 years.
Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize. I want to get to the other room, and please let me know if we have any in the online as well.
Oh, okay, thank you. In the previous visiting these presentations, there was significant discussion about storage facilities for fuel. Will those be greatly reduced now that it's going to be an all-electric facility?
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, our commitment is to have only zero emission buses for the facility when it reopens, and Phil can provide a little bit more detail on that.
Yes, the answer is yes. We're working currently with WMATA to de-diesel the facility. So the 2 previously programmed large underground storage tanks for diesel fuel are part of that effort. Our fueling lanes are going away and other changes that we're still evaluating with the authority. But there will be no underground diesel storage on the project at the time of opening.
Thank you. If you all could please, for those who are online, just a reminder, you can enter your comments or questions in the chat, and we will get to them.
Hi, I'm Elliot Nagan. I'm with the DC Environmental Network. 2 quick questions that are related. is the plan to install a new natural gas fueling facility at Shepherd Parkway still ongoing? And is Metro still planning to increase the percentage of natural gas buses in a fleet to 50%? They all, as you all know, they run on methane. There was a new law passed in DC just recently that said that prohibits installing natural gas in new buildings and in substantial renovations. Is this a violation of the new DC law? That community has the worst asthma across it's Ward 8. It has the worst asthma percent. 24% of the people living in there have asthma. The average across the city is only 10%. You're adding another industrial facility, and we all know that methane leaks like crazy. The Sierra Club found that 400 leaks across the entire city, a dozen of which were potentially dangerous. Why is Metro doubling down on natural gas, which is methane, when the entire world is moving away from natural gas? Thank you.
So I just want to make sure we have two questions, right? So one, is it the commitment to natural gas at the Shepherd Park project, and then, yes, and the garage, and then do you know the status of Metro's desire to move to 50% natural gas?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not prepared to speak on the CNG portion or the Shepherd Parkway details today, but we can look into that and get back to you.
So a question over here.
Hi, Cecilia Waldeck. Just a real quick question. Whether you have any information on PEPCO's plans to, put in lines to the Northern Bus Barn to charge up all these buses? Because I understood previously, there was nothing firm about this, but that there may be a need to build a new substation, perhaps in the neighborhood, and getting there would be new lines. How does that impact the community in terms of, is there going to be streets, disrupted, lines going under the streets? If you have any information, if you could share it, that'd be great.
Yes, from our early coordination, PEPCO, some of you know, I know Mr. Upta has spoken to it in previous meetings, Clark is actually doing the work for them, but we are upgrading the PEPCO Harvard substation. Our early coordination is it is expected that substation will be the source where the power for the Northern Bus battery electric charging will be drawn from, but we do not have the specifics of whether they're going to have to bring lines all the way from there, or if there is capacity in the network and they'll only be expanding it from another point. As this commitment is brand new. We are already outreach to PEPCO for an update meeting to say it may come in the future. It is now coming, and we are diving into that in depth. The power for the main building normal use is coming off the existing circuits on 14th Street, so there'll be no expansion of the system associated with the normal building power.
We have one question online from Louise Eby. Does zero emission mean no diesel or natural gas buses, or will there be such buses but emissions will be offset by reductions elsewhere?
No, there are no offsets involved in this at all. A zero emission bus facility means all of the buses that will be operating out of this facility will have no tailpipe emissions associated with them. Sorry, just to be totally clear, there will be no CNG or diesel or hybrid buses operating out of Northern when it reopens.
Thank you. So with that, we will go to project overview and construction updates.
Please. All right, so the print's too small for me on here, so I'm going to have to turn a little to read my slides. We've been working with the DCRA, now DOB, Department of Buildings, as they've rebranded. And the foundation to grade permit was the next major permit that we were anticipating and have now received. With DC Water, we finally got to the approval stage on our large plan review, which is the infrastructure for new stormwater, new water, and new sanitary services to support the new Northern Bus Garage. And we had the permits that were required associated with the temporary trailers that you have seen arrive on Arkansas Avenue side of the property. They'll have water and sewer connections during the time we are using them as our base of operations for managing the project. Our construction contract was executed with WMATA for Phase 2. We concluded the deal on September 30th, and we received our notice to proceed for all of the Phase 2 construction activities effective Monday, October 3rd. And we have actively ramped up activities on the site with that major contract milestone between WMATA and the Clark Design Build team. Next slide. Just to give folks a little peek behind the fence, if you will, in the third quarter, ahead of the full NTP, we did get an early enabling authorization as well. That allowed us to begin some of the remediation activities. The most significant one is the preparatory activities for the removal of the underground storage tanks that had been located on the property. What you're seeing in the top right is what's called an underpinning pit. Some of the adjacent structure had to have new foundations added to so that we could safely excavate the tanks from within the building footprint prior to the demolition. And the excavation, the bottom center, is as we have started to excavate and expose the top of the tanks. Next slide, please. Excuse me. And then we also began the pre-construction survey program. I'll be diving into that a little bit deeper because I know there's some questions on that after this first construction update. Next slide. The environmental remediation is a condition precedent to us initiating our major demolition activities under our raise permit. So the other things that have happened since that, right up through present day today, is all of the underground storage tanks have been cleaned and certified. 6 of the 7 have been physically removed from the ground. At this time, there is one additional one in the basement that we can't remove until we do some of the mass demolition. We have completed all of the purging of all of the lines that serve those tanks back to the dispensary points. And like I said, the 6 of the 7 underground storage tanks are now physically removed. We've taken a lot of the bus maintenance equipment out. WMATA salvaged some of the parts for the vehicle lifts for other facilities for spares. And we have other equipment that we've been demobilizing. All of the above ground storage tanks that were in the building have also been removed at this point. And the field work associated with the Department of Environmental and Energy and Environment, DOEE, for the supplemental site assessment has been completed, and Jim will be presenting further information on that later this evening. The couple of pictures that you're seeing, again in the top right, is more of the work associated with the underground storage tank and the large excavation in the bottom right-hand picture there. Next slide. The other major activity that's more forward-facing, because it's outside the building, of course, is our mobile. All of the maintenance of traffic around the site perimeter, the long-term construction fencing, the art and graphic fabric wrap that you've seen. Couple final sign-offs with the woman, and that is in the process of being printed in installation side. Complex has been in the process of being set up and built out on 14th Street. Our temporary electric power interconnect with Pepco is underway. The water and sewer connections are moving forward through the construction permitting, and we will have a soft move into the trailers next week with a full occupancy the following week, which will allow us to then take the major step of the full disconnect of all of the utilities serving the existing building as the activities as we move in. The street tree removal that was permitted by the urban forestry was completed. And so really been just trying to get mowed and set up and out of the building where we've been working from so we can advance into demolition. Next slide. So as the fourth quarter has wrapped up and we've moved into January, we have other instrumentation equipment that's been put, the noise and vibration monitoring. We're starting to put up some of the physical monitoring for prisms, and we're working on the permitting for the devices that we'll need as we initiate major excavation, excuse me. So we have some other monitoring devices that are part of that program. The installation of foundations has been ongoing along 14th Street for the facade bracing system that will be going up for the portions of the facade that are being preserved. And we have also begun the preparation for the start of the major demolition, which actually began on Tuesday on the cover over Decatur Street, and that'll be working down towards Iowa, and then we will be moving to the south side. Parking deck is, and working ourselves into the middle of the site. Next slide. Again, as we move into this first quarter, and the last of those underground tanks will come out. All of the remaining service equipment in the building will continue pre-construction surveys as our neighbors ask for them. The instrumentation and baseline data will remain ongoing. The historic tower re-support, we're drilling the foundations for that inside. We'll be moving forward with the other elements to complete that full re-support activity in first quarter. The facade break you will see going up here in February, and that'll be ongoing for several months. It's a very complex break. And then, again, the major demolition has already started as we are the first full month of the quarter done. And I think that brings us up to a question break. Nope, sorry. Other agency coordination. Our building permit is under review. As I noted earlier, the foundation to grade permit's been approved. Washington Gas is continuing the engineering for the main low-pressure gas service that will provide the source fuel for the boiler plant, power plant for the boilers for the heating and cooling system. DDOT, there was an MOU relative to the traffic signal logistics we have to do with DDOT on 14th Street. That's fully executed now. And then I think I noted both of the DC water items, and our temporary service application for our Arkansas trailers is approved with PEPCO, and the ongoing coordination, the finalized new building service application, the last administrative piece of paperwork on that was delivered to PEPCO recently, and we expect that full use letter coming forward. And again, with DEOE, all of our erosion sedimentation control measures are approved and installed and inspected, and our stormwater management plans were at, we hope, the last of the effort of moving through. And again, we're finalizing the supplemental site assessment reports and remediation. Again, Jim will speak to those a little bit further in this evening's presentation. Next slide. Russ, I think at the last meeting, had asked for a little bit deeper dive on the stormwater systems. I've broken those up into two categories. The first one is temporary. It starts with those erosion and sedimentation controls that are around the site perimeter you can see today. And we're going to have a very robust on-site treatment plant that will be able to treat all of the suspended. What those are is the dirt and silt that will get into water from rain or snow melt, and as we excavate. This mic is up. All right, I'll try it again. All right. And it will also have the ability to treat any contaminants that are found in the form of the residuals from the investigation that were found largely in the form of what's called diesel range organics. They go through what's called a carbon filter so that we meet the discharge receiving requirements for the combined sewer in the District of Columbia with DC Water. Everything will be going to DC Water sewer, so nothing will discharge from our site to surface waters. We know we're close to Rock Creek and whatnot, but the way the stormwater system works in the neighborhood, everything goes to the combined sewer system here. And we have three major sources. We have dewatering wells that we'll be installing on the upslope side. We also have what's called sumping. Those are the pumps and pits that we do within the excavation to take care of groundwater or rainwater or snowmelt. And then managing the precipitation that falls has to be to the discharge to the sewer. That's our temporary world. Our permanent world, the next slide, is the main stormwater system for us consists of a large underground cistern. It's within the building footprint. It has a 310,000 gallon capacity. This captures all of the rainwater that falls on the roofs in the parking of the building, the employee parking on our rooftop. We have a recirculation tank, a 60,000 gallon capacity that will draw water first from the cistern and second from potable water from the city. And that will be recirculated and managed to take care of all the bus washing activities on the site. And then around the perimeter, we have a series of, in the stormwater vernacular, called BMPs, or best management practices. These are certain plantable soils with our tree wells. There's permeable soils under the sidewalks. We have permeable pavement on some of our sidewalks around the perimeter to maximize that on-site capture. Those who live in the neighborhood are certainly familiar with it. We're out to lot lines, so there aren't going to be any new stormwater ponds or larger features on the site because of the site logistics restrictions. And the next slide will give you a graphical presentation of some of those elements. That large cistern is in green. The recirculation tank is in purple. So those, again, fully within the footprint of the building. The next slide shows some of the site perimeter. The purple along the top edge is some of all the permeable pavement for the sidewalk areas. We have all of the landscape areas in green. Is where all of the BMP type features are incorporated relative to stormwater on the project. We also have green roof on a portion of the building. I think it's about 8,000 or 9,000 square feet of green roof. That is another feature of part of our LEED certification. And next slide, we are to questions.
There we go. Thank you. And just for those who are on, there's a little bit of ambient noise in the room as well from a fan, as well as intermittent mic cancel. So please bear with us. We will continue to improve. Question.
Yes, Ray Michael Bridgewater. And this question may be answered by somebody else later on. But how many, you mentioned underground and above ground storage tanks. How many are there in this facility?
The current facility had a total of 7 underground. 6 of the 7 have already been removed. The 7th has been purged and cleaned and scheduled for removal. There were 4 above ground storage tanks, if I recall, in the existing building. They're all been removed. And in the new building, we have, I believe I answered this the last quarter, so I will stand corrected in the final meeting minutes, but I believe there are 4 above-ground storage tanks. One is deprogrammed as part of the diesel that I spoke about. The diesel fuel additive was an above-ground storage tank, and that will be coming out of as part of removing diesel bus infrastructure from the building.
In your estimation, how old were these storage tanks? And when they were removed, what were the conditions?
All of the tanks that were put in as part of the 1980s era renovations, they were all fiberglass style tanks, and there was no leaking with the surrounding, there had been no leaking into the surrounding soils at the underground storage tank removal site. All the soil at the bottom was clean, and everything around the tanks was clean.
So you said there was no leaking.
There was,
To your best of knowledge, were you weren't the person who was assigned at removed in the 1980s, correct?
yeah, there was legacy leaking. There was an active and then closed leaking underground storage issue on the site with WMATA that predated the 1980 renovations, but the tanks that were installed in the 1980s that we have exposed and removed had no evidence of leaking since their installation.
Okay.
And I'll come back. I just want to make sure we have opportunity for everyone. And going back to my old AV days, if you give your this.
Hi there, Audrey Wanze, business across the street as well as living a block and a half away. Question, you mentioned a traffic MOU. Has that been posted? What is that exactly? Changing the light sequence along 14?
No, when we do traffic signal work in the District of Columbia with DDOT, there's certain work that has to be performed by their staff. And the memorandum of understanding creates an agreement and creates a payment mechanism, prepaid, that they draw against because they have to have an account to charge their time to. So they do the programming of the traffic signals. They do certain work in the signal cabinets as they're changed. The traffic signal timing on 14th today will remain unchanged unless we are seeing a congestion issue that may be attributed to, at which point we would reach out to DDOT and look at potential adjustments to the signal timing. But it's really just it's a mechanism for them to send us a bill.
Okay. Great. My other question is, a few weeks ago, there was a gas leak.
Yes, ma'am.
And we weren't notified of that. Like there was no email, there wasn't a text. They just blocked off the street to repair the leak. I understand from what you just said that all the utilities will be cut off, correct? So
Yes.
there'll be a complete disconnect.
Yes, ma'am.
In the event that there is another, and to those of us that were nearby, that's the scary thing to not know, especially when you have restaurants that have customers that smoke, and I don't know how bad it was, but we weren't notified. And that's a scary thought that something like that could go on, and we're so close, including homeowners, and not be told. Anything else that you could potentially think of that could affect the neighborhood in a negative way? Potential explosion, fire, those kinds of things. And how would you handle those if you do foresee them? Thanks. Well, there's a community. Guys post on that regularly. Community leaders text or ANC commissioner, council member, or what have you, but you do have access to the community listservs. So I think something should have been sent out immediately when you found out that there was a gas leak. Thank you.
Yeah, a great point, and we will certainly correct that should there be an incident in the future. I will clarify one item. We were the only customer on that particular gas was high pressure versus the low pressure that businesses are served by, as well as residences. Wash gas was on site very quickly. I know they have a notification system to customers when there's an impact to this system. You obviously weren't notified by them because you weren't on the system that was impacted, but we will certainly work with our comm team to do a better job of messaging in the future. It's a good comment.
Yeah, if I could just say, it's not Washington Gas's sole responsibility.
I understand that. We as a neighbor have an obligation. We will work with our comm team to make sure we do a better job in the future.
Specifically around listservs and other things, like you indicated. Right. We have a question. We can get this in.
Yeah, and we definitely, you had your hand up first, actually, so we got to make sure we.
Got it. So Emma, if you could bring the person on.
Hi. Is it? So, hi, I'm Carla Ferris. I am a single member district, an ANC commissioner for single member district 4 EO4. And I wanted to know, with the bus, with the announcement that the buses are going to be electric, the buses that are actually assigned to the Northern Bus Garage, are you going to remove the diesel infrastructure from the plan? Or is that diesel infrastructure still going to be included for some reason?
It will be removed.
Oh,
Thank you.
that's great. Thanks.
Hi, Tim Oberleiten. I work for Earth Justice, but I'm also a local resident. I just had a question about the Washington gas portion of the slide that was up there. The purpose of the gas line being run for the facility, you said that's just for a boiler? That's just for heat on the facility?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And in coming up with that plan, was there any analysis done for alternative sources for heat, like ground source heat pump or geothermal? And at what stage is the current hookup for that gas, given the fact that a lot of buildings are going to stop using gas and there are alternatives to using gas? If it's specifically just for heat, it's going to be electric buses and there's going to be solar on the roof. It seems like there's going to be capacity to run a heated electric system.
I need you to mention the law about gas in new buildings.
We did explore various systems. I don't have all the specifics off the top of my head. You know, the boiler plant that is there, because this is a critical facility 24/7, we do not have the capacity in our solar by any stretch of the imagination to support the demand that it would take to run an electric heating and cooling system here. I have taken a note just to go back and challenge the team of what, if any, impact the recent DC legislation may have. But Washington Gas has been actively designing our new service for some time, because the current service on 14th Street doesn't have the capacity to serve us, and they're building an extension from Georgia Avenue to bring in the low pressure line that we will need at the size that at our peak demand is going to require.
Thank you. We have another online question. Oh, here.
Hello, everybody. How you doing today?
Fine.
We're good.
Okay, this is the question that I want to ask for the WMATA in general. But will you guys often with the partnership with Maryberry as Summer Youth Employment Program, the SYP?
So I believe he was asking about if the would be Marionberry.
Can you say that again? Because it was bringing out.
You say it again for us. If you could repeat your question.
My question is, can y'all out then with the Murray some youth employment program, like to partnership with them again? Because in the past, y'all partnership with Murray some youth employment program, and y'all bring jobs for youth age 16 to 24 with office jobs, bus jobs, and relevant jobs. And the Wamata community since the past five, no, 3 to 5 to 10 years ago. Like I want y'all to partnership with the summer job program because they really want y'all to partnership with them again. So that way we could bring new jobs to the second phase of the silver line. So that way we could get the momentum of bringing more ridership back and more reliability to the better bus network and a better metro for the future. So I was
Got
curious if we could opt in with y'all so we could get more momentum going for the summer for the youth and adults. Because I know y'all have a
Thank you.
college.
So what you're asking is, considering all the benefits from bus ridership, will Metro reconnect with the Summer Youth, Marionberry Summer Youth Job Program? The panel isn't able to answer that, but I think we have some other individuals who are indicating yes, that they will continue or, re-enter that project. Thank you for your question. We have a question here in the room.
Hello, I'm happy about all the news tonight. Thank you. Let's see. So you mentioned that there's going to be there were 4 above ground storage tanks. Now there'll be 3. Can you just say what's in those? And then just on the communication point, we also need a way to contact you all, and we do not have an effective way. I know this is later about the site survey. I was trying to get one, and I had to just call and leave a message on a voicemail that no one ever responded to me. I finally got directly in contact with the construction team, but just having a number with a voicemail it's just not effective, right? And if somebody needed to call about something like a gas leak. So we actually need a phone number for a real person and an email, because also the email listserv only goes one way, which that makes sense, I understand, but we need somebody who we can respond to. And that should be on every email.
Why the voicemail, the number, the WMATA Ombudsman phone number that's published on the website and whatnot is supposed to be reviewed daily on business days. If there was a delayed response, guys, but we will have to, huh? Okay. All right. We will look into that. Again, I know we've worked with WMATA to expand access to the emails so that more people, in case the principal person with the assignment is on PTO or otherwise not available, that it's being looked at by more people on the WMATA side. I know we talked about that in some management meetings at the beginning of the year when we knew construction was going to start ramping up, but we obviously have room to improve, and we will continue to look at it to try and be as.
Thank you, Phil. I don't know what happened. So a 2-week interruption might be a PTO or something. You're talking about a 2-month delay. So I want to just acknowledge that there is a beyond a server thing. But let me ask you this: that was what I was going to ask, if you got an email.
Just what are the above ground storage tanks?
Right. She asked, what are in the current 3 above ground storage tanks?
The ones that were on site, one of them was antifreeze, another one was used engine oil, and at the top of my head, I don't recall the third. I don't want to misspeak, but I know those were 2 of the products that were in above ground storage tanks. Oh, okay. I thought you were asking what was in the current ones. Okay.
Sorry, for those that are online, she's asking what are going to be in the 3 above ground storage tanks returning.
I'm going to take the question and will reply. I don't know the answer off the top of my head.
Thank you.
Elliot Nagan from the DC Environmental Network. I should have said earlier, thank you so much. The coalition I work with 16 organizations in the DC metro area. Very pleased to see that what you're doing at Northern, except for the fact that you're using gas, natural gas, which is something that we should talk about to heat the place. That's another issue. But what I wanted to say is, jumping off of what this young lady just said, there's a problem with communication with the public. And what I mean by that is that a lot of us in our coalition, we watch all the metro board meetings. And the last time there was any serious discussion about what was going on with the bus fleet was last April 28th to be exact. And there has not been, we haven't seen any kind of conversation at board meetings about what's going on with the bus fleet. We know that Metro has a lot on its plate, that's for sure. There are a lot of other things going on, no doubt. But it would be great if we could have more information on the website that updates us regularly about what's going on with the electric bus transition. We weren't even sure what you were going to say yesterday because the most recent thing I could find on your website about what was going to happen at Northern was from December 2021, when you guys said that you were going to reinstall diesel infrastructure and have a mix of diesel and electric buses at the site. We're glad that you decided not to do that. We were vehemently opposed to that idea. But there was nothing on the website that updated anything. And that's true not only for Northern, it's true for across the system. So for the people in the community who really want to see Metro move as quickly as possible to electrify the bus fleet because of environmental concerns and concerns about the climate and also concern about public health, we'd like to have regular updates on the website. There should be a place to go that lets us know what's going on, because if you go on the website, everything's really old. Thank you.
Thank you. So consistent communication. We have one more online, and then we're going to have, sort of for time, we're going to get to the next, but you will be able to ask questions both at the end of the next presentation point, which I think is the last, and at the end of the project. So one more after that. Right. So we have the online question, then we're going to get back to the presentation. Oh, you don't have a mic. Sorry.
A second question from Carla. Are there plans to conduct soil testing on adjacent properties to check for contamination throughout the demolition and construction process?
I'm going to defer that question until my part of the presentation, if that's okay, and we can pick that up then.
All right. Back for the pre-construction survey update.
Go to the next slide. I think I can touch on this fairly quickly. We made our best effort to identify the actual property owner for all of the subject properties within 200 feet of our property line, and we did use certified mailings. If we have failed to reach you effectively, there is still plenty of opportunity to sign up. You can do this directly through the phone number and email on the slide, and these slides will be posted, but the phone number is 443-221-4493, or email at nbgsurvey@T as in Thomas, ER-INT.com, and that is the firm that is providing the surveys, and they will then reach out and schedule your survey. The property owner will get a copy of the completed pre-construction survey, so you have a record. As we've noted previously, the program only covers properties within 200 feet of the Northern Bus Garage property lines, as informed by the current guidelines with DCRA and the Federal Transit Administration. Next slide. And again, the overlay map here, if your property is in the gray shading, Those are the properties within 200 feet. I know this site's been on the website before. At the location, there's a hyperlink there, but the information is out there. But we strongly encourage, with only about 30% of the eligible properties so far have actually had a survey requesting completed. And we would certainly like to see a lot more of our neighbors participate in the program. I think that's yeah.
Hold on, just so they can hear also.
I've sent 2 emails, and I'm directly across the street, and I've called, and no one responded at all.
To TER, because are you there was one landlord that had like 7 of the properties across the street, and we did all of them through the landlord. So are you the building owner, or are you a lease? Okay. If you can give me your contact information, I will take it back to the project team and have someone call you tomorrow.
And for those online, Emma will enter an email in the chat so that we can also have been reached. I want to wait because I'm actually talking to the people online. So anyone online who also hasn't been able to touch with the project team, Emma, email in the chat so that you can email and we can relay it. Your question.
Sorry. Okay. I think you have to eat the mic. I think that's the key. I commute through Arkansas Avenue every morning and every evening. And the fences that they've put up on the back of the building by the construction trailers take up the full parking lane. And I can understand like why you don't want cars to park up along the bus barn side of Arkansas. But if they could move that fencing back just 3 feet, because what's happened is it's really narrowed the roadway a lot. And I notice a backup, especially in the morning commute, that goes all the way down to 14th Street because the roadway has narrowed considerably. And the other thing that's contributing to that is they did a bulb out for pedestrian crossing at, well, it's not 14th, or it's not 13th, it's maybe that's Illinois. Oh, it was Iowa. Yeah, they did a bulb out at Iowa. So that also is pushing traffic into narrower spaces. So, and it's tending to back up a lot in the morning. So if there was a way to move the Jersey walls and the fencing back just so that it's not constricting the roadway quite so much, still blocking the parking lane, but just not narrowing the roadway as much.
Actually, the bulb out was at the request of the community to reduce the speeding on Arkansas Avenue, which has been excessive and problematic for the community for a long time. Huh? Yeah, well, exactly. And it's forcing people to actually move through the work area. We don't want people speeding by our work zone either. The MOT setup was consciously set up the way it was with DDOT to enhance slower movement and force a visual constriction. Even though the lane width hasn't changed, it's by design to slow people down, so we will not be moving it in. It's part of our work site safety efforts to and also help improve the neighborhood, because I know there was a terrible problem on Iowa and Arkansas, people speeding on both of those streets.
We have a question. We have. Are there plans to? It is my understanding that streetcar remnants were discovered in the basement excavation. Are there plans to reincorporate them into the finished building, particularly near the loop at the northwestern corner of the building as a historical artifact?
During the basement, we did
Jim, you're not on.
I'll try again. During the ex. One last time. Yes.
We have found some small sections of rail so far. We are hopeful that we will be able to recover sections sufficient to install actual historic rail, but we do have a plan for a historic marker site that will include either replica embedded rail in the sidewalk at the former turnaround entrance, or hopefully it will be actually putting actual 1906 era artifact rail back in there. But there is going to be a historic interpretive site.
And this is going to be fun, Jim, because now you're actually going to present to the, and I know that's this fan here, so the environmental management update.
Slide, please. Before I go into the presentation, I want to take a moment to back up to some of the questions that were offered earlier. While the most recent tanks were removed and did not show any signs of contamination, there was legacy contamination present on site. We had been aware of that. We had communicated that with DOEE. That project had gone through what's called a case closure process. DOEE considered it the case closed. Then, as we were getting ready to do the current project, the one that Phil is working on, we sent some folks out to do some soil borings, and we identified some more residual contamination that had not been identified during the first round of investigations and remediation. That then led to us notifying DOEE, which has led to the process that we're talking about this evening. So I wanted to put that into context for you. Hopefully that does. We did talk with DOEE. We've gone out and done 2 rounds of field work. The most recent round of field work was completed in the fall. In December, Intertech PSI submitted to Clark and to WMATA a draft report of the contamination that they've identified based on the supplemental review. We are reviewing that. Once that document is finalized, it will be submitted to DOEE. Once DOEE gives us a signal, we will then release it publicly. So that's where we are in the contamination assessment process. Slide, please. We've said all along that there are a number of remediation plan elements that will be associated with this task. Phil has already talked about removal of the underground structures and the storage vessels. That action is in progress. Petroleum impacted soil will be excavated and disposed off-site, and those are what are called Tier 1 Rebecca levels associated with DOEE's program standards. We know that there are some areas already that we've identified for excavation. As we go in and do the removal of the foundation, if we identify other contaminated areas, those too will be removed and disposed off-site. Any free phase liquid and petroleum liquids that are present in the site will be removed and taken to a facility that's licensed to treat those liquids. Any dense, non-aqueous liquids, these are the chlorinated solvents that we've found in trace amounts but not found in free products. If they are identified, they will be removed from the site. My first read of the draft report is that we did not identify any dense, non-aqueous phase liquids. That's good news. But I'm waiting until I get the final report, and as I said, that will be released once DOE gives us the signal on that. We've committed to putting in a network of pipes beneath the foundation so that once the building is built, if we happen to identify additional petroleum vapors or additional chlorinated solvent vapors in the space below the foundation that require treatment, we'll be able to install a remediation system on the bottom floor of the new bus garage and to remove the vapors from that space between the bottom of the foundation and the top of the groundwater table. and put them in through a treatment system. We're not going to put the treatment system in now because our intent is to remove all of the source materials from the soil, from the groundwater. But if after we get this built, if we identify some vapors that need to be treated, we will have the network in place so that all we have to do is bring the equipment in and set it up and make it operational. We will install some sentinel wells down gradient of the site, again, looking for contamination leaving the site. And if we identify some, then we will consult with DOEE and determine next steps. To the question that was offered about off-site testing, our supplemental site assessment and earlier versions have looked down gradient of the site. We did identify one area of petroleum contamination, but it seems to be very, very limited. And again, I'll brief that more fully at our next quarterly meeting. Donzel, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Jim. We have a few online questions.
So one question that we have, tonight's earlier slides summarize 22 and Q1 23 activity. The website indicates
Yes, with the full NTP in October, again, as I noted earlier in the presentation, we have to go through the remediation activities first. We were able to hit the milestone of starting major structural demolition this past week on Tuesday. So we're very excited about that milestone. That will be a major activity over the coming months. And then we'll continue to move through the building. We will start to see major foundation and concrete work in the latter half of this year, and probably the first major structural steel out in early 2024. We are on track for that early 2027 opening at this time.
Thank you. Next question. Will you be testing for PFAS, PFAS, and is that one of the dense non-aqueous liquids? Aqueous.
Right. We have not tested for PFAS or PFOS. That is not considered one of the dense non-aqueous phase liquids. Say, in the environmental field, there is an emerging class of contaminants called PFAS and PFOS. They are sometimes referred to as, quote, forever chemicals because they take a long time to break down. They are typically associated with a couple of classes of uses which really are not present at Northern Bus Garage. The first is something called aqueous film-forming foam. It's used by firefighters for the extinguishment of aviation fuel fires. It's particularly well suited for that. We don't have aviation fuel fires here, so that's not an issue. The other place where you commonly see them are in things like Teflon and Scotchgard, which are used as flame retardants on home furnishings type stuff. But they're not regulated, and certainly for what we're dealing with, and I have no reason to believe that they would be present on site. Does that provide folks with an overview?
Next question is, do you have any idea how long this contract will take?
It's our intent to get the contaminated soil down to Tier 1 levels out as part of the construction. The real question is there any subsequent remediation? And until we can identify what that looks like, we can't offer a good projection.
Next question is, when the Northern Bus Barn opens in 2027,
Northern reopens, it will have only electric buses. It will not have any CNG buses, no diesel buses, no hybrid buses.
soil testing on adjacent properties, in addition to concerns about potential runoff, which it sounds like you've given quite a bit of thought to, I'm interested in knowing how you'll be monitoring for particulates that may be released throughout the demolition and construction process once the particulate adjacent properties is examined for the type of contamination.
Okay. Our construction activities are closely regulated in the district from the standpoint of dust forming and nuisance becoming what they classify as a nuisance through the construction activities. You'll see throughout the demolition, there's hoses constantly for wetting to reduce, to minimize dust. And all of our construction equipment likewise has active regulations in regards to the engine tiers or the classifications. Nearly everything in construction today is up to the tier 4 engines. There is still some tier 3 permitted for certain types of equipment, but the construction industry as a whole has gone a long way towards reducing their environmental footprint through the use of large equipment.
Questions in any questions in the room?
When the garage is finished, will it have a LEED certification?
Our goal is to actually achieve LEED Platinum, the highest. So we are currently, our design currently shows a path to that, and we're actively managing to it.
And once you achieve that certification, you keep it for the life of the building, or does it have to be renewed?
It requires active functions by WMATA to preserve and document the energy savings, et cetera, to retain the certification.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. One of the things I want to begin this process with is to ask, and just real quickly, to make the same request this time that I have made before. And that is, as a community, I would like to see us be in receipt. Even if you have to delay the meetings, I'd like to see us be in receipt of your slide presentation before we come to the meeting. That way, we can be better prepared. I'm not sitting here trying to take notes from a presentation that's being made and then have to come back and ask a question later. I can already be prepared. The second thing that I have asked, and maybe the request should not be made of you all, because it's not your responsibility. But I'm of a belief that our city government has abrogated their duties to us as a community by relying on you all to tell us what DDOT has told you, what DC WASA has told you, what PEPCO has told you, Washington Gas, all of these people that you've named have told you. And at some point, we're going to need our A&C commissioner, our ward person, our mayor to have these agencies here, because I still have an unanswered question. For example, I want to know what the truck routes are going to be in the neighborhood from DDOT. Is it coming down Arkansas, 14th, Buchanan? I don't know. And I don't want to have to continually to rely on you all to answer that question. When I hear things about DC WASA, and I'm hearing and I'm believing what you're telling me, that the city's sewer system is combined. But I also know that the DC WASA is spending billions of dollars to separate that system. Why would we have a brand new facility, almost $500 million, and you're telling me I can't even imagine what 600,000 gallons of water looks like? I mean, that sounds like an ocean to me. So if we're talking that much, it would seem to me that DC WASA would say to WMATA, look, let us get up there and separate the sewer from the stormwater so that when this 600,000 gallon dumps into the system, it's not going into a combined system. Because you all got what? You're going to have 250 car garage. You roughly got 500 employees that work out of it. That's a lot of toilet flushing. And now that's going into the same system that the stormwater is going to go into. So when I tell you these things, I mean, this is what I'm talking about. Now that we've gotten this far in the presentation, I understand that you all are going to be creating a new foundation for the new building. Am I correct? The old foundation is gone. So there'll be a brand new one that's coming. From a community's perspective, and we've raised this issue before, I'm going to continue raising it with the board because it's not you all's decision to make. But that foundation needs to be made so that in the people that are sitting in this room, that their grandchildren will not continue to see this being a bus barn 50 years from now, when I'll be dead. But I love this community enough to know that I don't want to see my son and his children have to be in a community where we've got $1 million homes right next to a bus garage. I don't care if it is all electric. We have, as a community, we've got to do better, and that's going to be on us. That's it. I'm going to turn this. Oh, last thing. Now that you all are going all electric, as a community, we want to know, what does WMATA plan on doing with the cost savings? You're no longer going to have to be spending millions of dollars for a filtration system, because you're not going to need it. As I know, you don't need anything to remove diesel particulate matters when there's not any DPMs. So is there anything that we can get as a community now that you all are going to be saving money? That's not doing the community. Those people that live in the 16th Street Heights. We need some benefit, particularly from the cost savings. And that's not all. I mean, there's an opportunity here. And I spoke about this, and unless this person wants to confess, I'm not going to call any names, but I've got the same question that I'm still turning over in my head how to resolve it, but I want us to think about this. If we got an all-electric garage, when the electricity goes out in your house, what do? So if the power goes out at Northern, what happens? I mean, I don't know. You don't have enough candles or enough battery. There ain't enough D batteries you can find around your house to light this facility. Okay, I mean, I don't know. How big a generator is it going? And that's a good question. It could be a generator, but how big is it going to be, and how much noise is it going to make when it does come on? I mean, so these, and maybe you all haven't gotten to these questions yet, but this is stuff that I'm encouraging you all to think through. One solution that I came up with is put solar panels on top of the parking garage. That'll generate some electric. You won't have to worry about the power going out. There's all kinds of things that you all can do.
Thank you. So I think just to separate a little bit the things, because I know there's some that can be answered, can't be answered, but just the points made, right? So first point is around with the new foundation in a way that will allow for a vertical increase in building on the property. Then there was a question around that isn't project specific about communication from DC government agencies around this. Right, and alternative power source should the electricity for any reason get disconnected from the building. Bill, you want to do the last one?
I can answer a couple of the
Okay.
questions Mr. Upter raised. The truck routes are published in the district by DDOT based on the class of vehicle, and 100% of the deliveries to the site will be using only those authorized truck routes. Their licenses to operate the district are at risk if they don't. So those are clearly published on the DDOT website. From the standpoint you asked the question about the savings on the removal of the diesel infrastructure, it's being turned right back around in the building and being invested into actually building out the electrical bus charging infrastructure. So that's staying on site, and it's making sure that we are operating as 100% electric. So I think those are a couple of your key questions. We have explored solar. The solar, that we cannot power our building with rooftop solar. The demands for this building far exceed, even if we covered every square inch of the roof in solar, we are nowhere close to taking care of the actual demand side. From an emergency standpoint, the battery electric bus charging infrastructure will be built with 2 redundant feeds so that if one goes down, there is still power. It's a critical infrastructure, so we have to invest in bringing in power from 2 different sources. That's common. That's how the rail transit system works as well. So hopefully that addresses some of your concerns.
Yeah.
We've thought about a lot of things. Yes.
2 lines in is you don't have that in your house, so I was going to.
Yeah, as a follow-up, and we'll continue to have this discussion, but around the under and above piping and storage tanks, the age, the condition when it was removed, because now you're talking about there was possibly leakage. So I just want you to know that that will be a discussion now and into the future, and probably not only a soil testing on your side and independent soil testing for the community assessment, because if you're looking at, you're going to be only responsible for 200 feet from your building, then that becomes a point of contention. If 2 blocks down, they find soil contamination that more than likely came from your facility.
So the testing did collect samples down gradient of the site, including some samples located across Arkansas Avenue, well off of the property that's known as Northern Bus Garage. We are looking down gradient of that, and so far we've not identified, we've I think had 1 detection down gradient across Arkansas Avenue, but basically there's nothing off-site from that. Our analysis are being turned over to DOEE. We are engaged in discussions, and we'll release those publicly once the DOEE gives us a signal to do so.
So
you're talking about the property of People's Church or other community properties when you're talking about down slope?
It's down slope or down gradient. This is all. These samples were collected in public space. We'll share the information with you. I'm not prepared to do the full presentation at this time, but I got coming.
Yeah.
Thanks for the heads up. If that's what the community wants, absolutely.
So we have a follow-up question to the soil monitoring question. Thank you for your response. I would still like to know if there will be any sort of soil monitoring in the event that the mitigation efforts around dust and particulates are not as effective as hoped.
if there's indications in the community that we've had fugitive dust moving off-site from our construction, we'll certainly want to hear first so that we can mitigate it as quickly as possible, and would work with DOE and WMATA to consult if any further actions would be needed.
Thank you. Next question is, how can WMATA keep the community informed of environmental issues? WMATA pledged to do so by
The information is published on our website. We have published the documented categorical exclusion, which explained the projected environmental impacts from. Additionally, the comprehensive site assessment, the first of the documents, was released on the website. I anticipate other documents will be published once they're released or approved for release by DOE.
updates about the upcoming construction actions and their impact on noise levels nearby? It would be helpful to be able to plan around.
We'll work closely with WMATA to see how we can explore means to update the frequency of construction-specific updates between the quarterly of meetings.
Here in the room.
Thanks. So I've been texting with Gabriella Mosi from Uptown Main Street, and she said that she'd be happy to help with the pre-construction survey and making sure that the business owners and commercial property owners within those 200 feet that they get that information. So she hasn't received it from the WMATA construction side, but she's happy to help get that information to them.
So we'll make sure we put Clark in touch with Uptown Main Street.
Thank you for the help.
Another question online.
Next question online. Are there any plans in place at present for rodent mitigation in the event that the demolition and construction process results in an increase in the local rodent population, as rodents may be displaced from underground burrows through the construction process?
Yes, we have a pest management firm already actively supporting us at the job site.
And just with the updated communication process, there'll be a way they can contact if they see additional roads. Will they be able to contact you?
Yes, of course, as we work with the WMATA and your team to make sure that the phones are answered, the email is answered. If there is, if you see them, please notify us.
Right. And there was also a comment in the room that it would be great one person in a timely manner for the project, and they wanted the project team to slide. Okay, turn it over to Maya to talk about what to expect 2023.
So, next slide, please. Okay, so since the last meeting, we have been really busy, as you probably heard. In September, we started the environmental remediation and site mobilization. We also started the pre-construction survey and early enabling work notification. WMATA issued to Clark the full construction notice to proceed. As you've seen this week, we started the mass demolition. Going forward, for the next major milestones for the project, for 2024 Q3, we will start structural steel assembly. For 2026 Q2, we'll start the acceptance testing, and finally, we'll accept the project completion mid-2027. Next slide. Next slide. We are obviously committed to continuing these community engagement meetings. You will get notification for the next meeting for spring 2023. Here's a list of the website, which you guys made comments, and we noted the comments, and we'll definitely address those. We also have a dedicated email address, and you can also follow various social media avenues.
So that concludes the presentation. Are there any final questions online? And then I'm going to come around to the other side of the room.
Oh, yeah. One of the questions that and I guess this is, what happened to the art and transit people? Oh, okay, all right. I do have a couple of questions about that and a comment. The banners that they put up, my understanding was, and this was responded at the last meeting, was that the art and transit was to extend the length of 14th Street. They put up a couple of panels, then they put up a couple of more. Then the wind took them down. And, they laid down for a couple, 3 days. Last I looked or remember, now they're gone. I don't know what the plan is for that. I also know, and I asked this the last time, about treating the Arkansas Avenue side of the building with the artwork, something similar to what was presented in earlier phases. And I was told that the gentleman, I can't think of his name right now. Yeah, he was going to look into seeing, because I had mentioned that you all could get grants to do that artwork on the wall, and he said he was going to look into it. And what I want to say to you all, and have you say to him, is that WMATA has always gotten grants to improve their artwork. More specifically, they got a grant from I think it was DC Humanities and the Arts, to put Sam Gilliam's mural on the Tacoma Avenue station. And that's on you all's website. So I don't know what the issue seems to be. If it started out being money. And if that's the case, that's why I recommended the grants. But that didn't seem to raise much enthusiasm, to get that done. And I'm presenting this on behalf of people that live along Arkansas Avenue, some of whom are absent from the community right now. They're in other parts of the country or other parts of the world, and they've asked me to represent their interests, at these meetings.
Right. Before you were able to join us this evening, Mr. Gupta, we did speak to the temporary fabric fencing. That was just approved this past week with WMATA, the final. We will be wrapping the entire fence around the perimeter in the coming weeks, so that should be up in February, and so that will be up as promised. Mr. Ode had an unavoidable commitment this evening, so he couldn't join us, but he will be certainly prepared to speak in the spring meeting. We're working with the fence fabric manufacturer, and one of the big differences compared to the fence, it was actually pushed over by vandals. It wasn't the wind, but we have video, so we know what happened. But all of our fence is more permanently mounted, right? Because it's up for a long period of time inside the construction site. So it's been designed to have fabric on it and not tip over in the wind.
Another question in the room. And then I think there was an online question regarding the website.
Just a question for the WMATA folks. the northern community meetings have been happening for some time. I think you're going to start up with the Western Garage community meetings. In regards to the Shepherd Parkway or the Bladensburg projects, is there plans to do community meetings there? If the Shepherd Parkway project is well underway, to what extent have there been community meetings or interactions with the ANCs in the local area? Thank you.
So yes, we do have park.
Okay. Again, Ray Michael Bridgewater. I've been asked by Council Member George to create a health council for Ward 4. For those who are in the room and those who are online, we're still looking for people to serve on that council, starting within the community of Ward 4. So one of the main issues that we're looking at, I'm a 3-time cancer survivor. I'm born and raised in this city. I'm a Freeman Hospital baby. So that dates back a long, long time. I've worked under Charlene Drew Jarvis. And those of you who don't know who that person is, mean that you haven't lived here that long. Yes, yes. Okay, so she worked with putting on the dome. So when you talk about 1980 and now and when it was and what the conditions were, we're going to be checking that. It's going to be an independent, and we're going to be watching this. July the 1st may be free buses, but cancer won't stop on July the 1st. Asthma will not stop on July the 1st. Respiratory diseases, heart diseases, that's not going to stop July the 1st. Our responsibility is to, from a public-private partnership structure, is to look at it. And we'll look at it honestly and openly and give you a fair chance to talk and explain yourself. But Pandora's box has been opened, and we're going to be protecting the community of this award. And we also know that diseases have no boundaries. So we're looking at the whole ward, just like the 150 buses just doesn't affect Ward 4, it affects the entire city. So we're going to be coordinating with other health councils in the city, looking at the asthma rate, looking at the cancer rate, looking at the heart disease. This city was just awarded a triple-negative breast cancer grant. That's the first time CDC has ever awarded such a grant, because DC is one of the places in this country that has the largest population of triple-negative breast cancer survivors. So, first time. So that means that there are a lot of issues. And it's not just diesel fuel, there's a lot of issues that goes along with that. But we are responsible for seriously protecting the community efforts from a health standpoint. We will be helping setting policies for the city to be implemented. I've been part of a half-dozen health initiatives in some of the largest in this city, dating back 20, 25 years, bringing in the first prenatal mobile unit. So there's a lot of work that has been done. Take the time to thank Talib for being instrumental of helping getting the 150 and the free emissions in this area. the work continues. The work always continues. It doesn't end with a date mark. So we will be fair, but we're going to be hard. Thank you.
Here, accountability and care for the community is what's important to you. So I want to thank you for your comments. And with that, I don't think there are any more questions online. This concludes our quarterly update. Thank you all so much for coming out. Thank you.